Yo, what is up, guys? XRP is at $1.06 right now in CoinMarketCap. Our first tweet comes from Bank XRP. Trump himself named XRP for the US Crypto Strategic Reserve. Now Congress is building a digital asset stockpile for all seized crypto. They're not just acknowledging XRP, they're legislating it. Our next tweet comes from Digital Asset Buy. BlackRock can't talk about XRP. R3 can't talk about XRP. Elon Musk can't talk about XRP. They can all talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum. I predict one day they'll all talk about XRP. Lock in. Let's watch this video.
How about an XRP ETF? I know you got Ether out there. How about XRP? Can you answer that?
I can't. And you don't want me to.
I do.
Well, I can't.
All right. They're giving me the rap. Thank you.
Given how punitive the SEC has been towards crypto under this administration, do you envision the XRP ledger being incorporated into the financial institutions in the future?
Well, I certainly cannot speak to any specific crypto, but you know, I do think that the sort of cryptocurrency is an interesting and probably valuable bulwark against a centralized control. So, you know, this is definitely not an endorsement or lack of endorsement for XRP. But I do think crypto, by its very nature, it helps with individual freedom.
You still working with Ripple at all as a company? I know that there was some extracurricular activity that was working its way through the courts, but and it's since been resolved. But I'm curious if there's ongoing discussions, since one of their primary focus is on the interbank settlement component that you're also touching.
So, frankly, Ripple's probably the only topic I can't talk about. I just don't talk about it. I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it.
Smash that subscribe button and hit that like button if you believe XRP will reach $3 again this year. Our next tweet comes from Senator Bill Hagerty. America's primed for digital asset leadership. The Genius Act has already helped unlock investment and innovation in the stablecoin sector. Now, we have an opportunity to strengthen America's leadership in digital assets, but only if we pass the Clarity Act. The time is now. Let's get it done. Let's watch this video.
I believe the Clarity Act can pass.
It certainly has the momentum and I think the interest to get it done. I'll just say this. It's been transformative to see what the Genius Act has done to the stablecoin arena. Mm-hmm. We have the opportunity to maintain that lead for America on a global basis if we can get clarity done, and the right time to do it is right now. The elements are there in front of us. I'd hate to see us kick the can down the road any further, but as you say, we have a lot ahead of us, a lot on the agenda, but I certainly hope we can get this done soon.
Our next tweet comes from Bank XRP. Trump just invoked Lindsey Graham's memory to push the Senate on the Clarity Act. Don't let China win on either subject, talking crypto regulation and AI in the same breath. Our next tweet comes from Zave Crypto. President Trump, the traditional financial system is broken. Sending payments still takes days to clear in 2025. That's insane. We need speed. We need trust. We need XRP. Built to fix what's broken, the bridge to the future. Let's watch this video.
Many Americans are unaware that behind the scenes, the technical backbone of the financial system is decades out of date, many, many years out of date. You know that. Paul and others are straightening it out, but payments and money transfers are costly and take days or even weeks to clear. Under this bill, the entire ancient system will be eligible for a 21st century upgrade using the state-of-the-art crypto technology. Who would have thought we would have been saying that 2 years after?
Our next tweet comes from Watcher Guru. Just in, BlackRock, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Coinbase, and 50 other firms partnered to develop tokenization use cases across the UK. Our next tweet comes from Riz XRP. Pass the Clarity Act XRP. Let's watch this video.
As you know, Ripple is really focused on the enterprise. We serve banks, we serve payment providers, we serve prime brokerage customers, corporates. So we're not focused on consumers. And what we find is when something like the Clarity Act gets passed, that certainty allows CFOs and treasurers and bank executives to lean in, where right now they might be a little bit nervous that a future regulator, a future Gary Gensler, who really was attacking this industry, could rekindle some of those attacks. And so the Clarity Act really puts that to bed. As Tim Scott said on this show earlier today, it allows the United States to lead in an industry where we have been lagging because we haven't had this clarity. The industry wants clarity and wants regulation. And when you have Jamie Dimon representing that somehow we're trying to circumvent regulation, like nothing could be further from the truth.
Our next tweet comes from Ripple Zitty. Just in, Ripple now sits at the same table as BlackRock, JP Morgan, and Goldman Sachs to develop tokenization use cases across the UK. Our next tweet comes from Zave Crypto. Ripple's CEO just explained why XRP exists in under 2 minutes, no jargon. Venmo can't stand to PayPal, even though PayPal owns Venmo. That's how broken our payment networks are. Now scale that to sending money overseas. Slow, expensive, and it can vanish for weeks. Ripple's fix: sell the tech to banks worldwide. 4-second settlement, fractions of a penny anywhere on Earth. Customers don't care it runs on XRP. They just care that it works. Let's watch this video.
Ripple started was to solve a simple problem, and that is moving money. And today we've all had experience, well, not too many people write checks, not too many people do those things anymore. If everybody were on Venmo, wow, that would be easy, right? Well, not everybody's on Venmo. There's a whole bunch of different networks. And the way I think about this, because I'm doing a quick survey of the audience, there's some people more my age than my son's age. Back when the internet was getting started, you had CompuServe, you had Prodigy, you had AOL. You couldn't send an email from Prodigy to AOL. You could only communicate within a closed network. Our payment networks are the same thing. Venmo is a closed network. Until very recently, you couldn't move money from Venmo to PayPal, and PayPal owns Venmo. Like, that doesn't make sense. But it's because of how our payment networks are configured. The highest friction is sending money overseas. Now, either from a professional point of view or a personal point of view, if you've ever had the unfortunate need to send money overseas, it is painful, it is expensive, it is slow, and mistakes happen and it gets lost for 2 weeks and you have to go track down. Rarely do you ever lose your money, but it's really frustrating. And what I used to say is, in a world where you literally can stream video from the space station, how can you not move your own money from A to B in a simple, reliable way? Ripple went out to solve that problem. And in our technology, by the way, everything I've said, you'll notice, I didn't say crypto. I didn't say XRP. Like, consumers don't understand how it impacts them, customers. And does anybody here really care if it went through XRP to solve that problem? You don't care. But what you do care about is, was it fast? An XRP transaction is about 4 seconds anywhere in the world. Is it cheap? It's fractions of a penny to move that money.
Our next tweet comes from Smoke DQG. New IMF report confirms assets backing USDT are not compliant with Genius Act. Documented. Our next tweet comes from Ripple Zitty. Just in, today marks 3 years since the US court ruled that XRP is not a security. Our next tweet comes from Bank XRP. Franklin Templeton executive just said the quiet part out loud. XRP is well past the journey, compared to new chains showing up weekly asking for issuance. Let's watch this video.
We're on their chain. How do you evaluate the right chain, and specifically, like, where does XRP fit into that, and what are you excited about with regards to XRP and institutional adoption and also the chains that come to you, which I'm sure are coming to you weekly at this point?
Well, yeah, because there's a lot of new chains too, and I think one of the things that another trend that you see globally is that very large institutions, kind of whales that are sitting out there in the global economy, are finding, they're understanding this ecosystem a little bit more, and they're trying to migrate people to using, chains or side chains that they have decided to kind of adopt. And so you do see a proliferation of that. And, from Franklin Templeton's perspective, we're going to go where the customers are, quite frankly, right? You're always listening to your customers. And, XRP, and the community around XRP is pretty aggressive at, growing and iterating for these purposes, these trillions of dollars purposes that, that we've been speaking about before. And so we have a lot of enthusiasm about working with the team specifically. When our journey started with the global regulators, and, we touch a lot of different global regulators, we did create a kind of a selection criteria that kind of, I hesitate to use the word protocol, but it does become kind of a standard when you're the first one through the door and you're learning up these regulators, quite frankly, toward, not that you're, trying to be a decentralized, permissionless issuer of an asset, but you're actually, oh, you're in a securities business and you're permissioned and you're just trying to use these rails as your underlying, data kind of database operating system by and large. And so there's a number of things that we kind of punched through there with the regulators to put that template in place. But we think that, XRP is, well past the journey of even new chains, toward that end. And I think, quite frankly, one of the things that we like the most as the technology at XRP continues to iterate is just the leadership. When I go into meetings with XRP and Ripple, I'm looking at, quite frankly, I'm like looking in the mirror at people that have the same, decades of experience in developing these things, as opposed to just we want to move fast and break shit and and move forward. And so it's wisdom of applying these things that's super important. It's not always just the technology; it's the leadership that's implementing the technology, quite frankly, toward broad purposes, that's going to determine the success of the project.
Real quick, if this helped, press the like button. It tells YouTube to show this to people who want the truth, not hype. And press the subscribe button if you're done being sold the moon. I've already got your next one right here. Go.